Welcome to the Gab Lab, a show where we tinker with titillating topics and explore the effulgent excellence of existence. We cover a wide range of subjects that are sure to intrigue you. So stick around and stay curious.
Gab Lab.
Hey, what's up, everybody? My name is Michael, and I'm doing a solo cast today. Today's January 10th, 2024, and 3 days ago, I celebrated 1 year of no fap or not masturbating. This is a whole podcast about no fap, semen retention, celibacy, sex addiction, pornography. So if you're not prepared for that, you can just shut it off right now. But if this is something that interests you, please stay tuned to hear my candid, vulnerable, and personal journey with these topics. First, I just want to say that many people have this issue with maybe pornography or compulsive masturbation, and they're either unwilling to admit it, they're afraid or ashamed. And that's a natural response with any kind of addiction or anything is shame keeps the wraps on things and keeps progress from being able to happen. And it actually feeds the addiction too, because um, self-loathing and shame are definitely part of addictive behaviors, and it's almost like the addiction wants us to self-shame and self-sabotage in order to create a negative mindset that we then self-soothe. Um, and ultimately, I think that this is innocuous. I don't think that there's like an evil part or like some kind of demonic possession or whatever. I think that ultimately that we just have a trauma pattern. So pretty much all addictions start with trauma, and trauma can look like different um, things to different people. Um, Trauma could be a one-off event that happens, or it could be um, a lack of uh, closeness from like a parent or something like that, which could be like an ongoing, harder to pin down type of trauma. So, and then we develop coping mechanisms for this trauma, which are forms of self-soothing. And they're just kind of survival mechanisms for us to be able to feel good. And ultimately, if the addiction is an addiction and not just something that we use from time to time, and it doesn't really have an impact in our life, um, if it's truly an addiction, it's going to have negative consequences in our personal life, our relationships, and our relationship with our higher power, um, whatever that may be. Higher power to an atheist could look like their friend group or their family, something greater than themselves. To somebody who is, religious or spiritual, it could be God, it could be their soul, it could be their higher self, it could be their creator, whatever you want to call that higher power. It's just something greater than you. And really, ultimately, with addiction, we need to ask ourselves, is this bringing me closer to my higher power or further away? Is this bringing me closer to my intimate relationships or further away? Is this bringing me closer to myself or further away? And is this in those three realms as well? Is this negatively impacting those relationships. So, um, yeah, so I guess with my story, I was exposed to pornography from a friend who got it from his dad, pretty early on in I think I was like 12 years old. And I had found, bra catalogs and stuff in the mail and was using those to like masturbate with. And then, um, as a teenager, it was like online pornography, as an early adult, online pornography. And, um, yeah, that was like where the most of it was a problem. Had a lot of like, not a lot compared to some people I know, like, but still in my mind, it was a lot of, one night stands and short relationships. And, uh, ultimately, a lot of lust ruled my mind. And, um, so, fast forwarding to where I am today, which is January of 2024, um, 1 year ago, my ex-wife and I had signed divorce papers. We separated. And I had already been seeing a sex addiction therapist. And um, I finally, 3 years ago, or sorry, 1 year ago, on January 7th, had actually started to work with a sponsor in Sexaholics Anonymous. And this is actually whenever I took it seriously. As soon as I got the sponsor, I treated the 12-step program like a part-time job. I was doing anywhere from 5 to 8 hours a week, working this program, going to meetings at 7 a.m., going to meetings at 5 p.m., talking with my sponsor, reading books, doing material. Because ultimately, I didn't know if I could save my marriage or not, but I knew that I needed to save myself, for myself, and for any future relationships I would be in. So, um, part of Sexaholics Anonymous is, their like bottom line is basically no sex with self or anyone other than their spouse, um, no matter what. And if you cross that bottom line, then you broke your sobriety. Now there's Sex Addicts Anonymous, which is a different program, and that is more like you define your bottom line. So if it's like, I can masturbate but without porn, or like they have different rules. So, um and with my addictive tendency in my brain, I wanted something a little more hardlined. And I'm heterosexual and I want to be in a monogamous relationship. So for me, it was easy for me to just say, I'm not going to have sex with somebody unless I'm in a loving relationship with them. And I had to just say that's my boundary and I'm not going to masturbate. Um, Now, do I think there's anything wrong with masturbation? No. Just want to be clear about that. I don't think there's anything wrong with masturbation, um, by itself. I think that there can be problems with it, and I might get into that in a little bit. But just to continue with that, um, so I started working the 12 steps, like it was a part-time job, and I realized that like there was a lot of value in it for me, but I also realized that, ultimately I don't believe some of the things that they were talking about in this program, like once an addict, always an addict, and this was like part of who we are, and like our soul, and because I believe that my higher power wants me to be free. I believe that my higher power wants me to not be an addict. Um, and I believe that my soul is perfect. I believe everyone's soul is perfect. Now, character and personalities get conditioned and programmed by patterns throughout our past, and these programs and patterns can be deconditioned. Um, but that's ultimately where the addiction lies, not in our soul. That's what I believe. Everybody's different. And I would be very vocal in these 12-step meetings, like, I disagree with this, or I disagree with that, or I agree with this, or I agree with that. And everybody was very respectful. But they don't change the program. Like, it is what it is. It's like a good old diesel engine. It works really well, but it's pretty basic. And if you're an addict, it's a great way for anybody with any addiction, or even just like a resentment or trauma, to do the 12 steps. It's a very thorough process. And yeah, if you really work them honestly, I don't think that you will be an addict afterwards, or at least you will have sobriety if you're really, really working the 12 steps. Um, but it takes dedication, it takes commitment, it takes humility. So, I would talk with my sponsor anytime I had a trigger or I felt like I was tempted to, um, act out. And I would talk with another member in the program. And I basically just did the daily affirmations. At 7 a.m., I would get on the phone call and do that whole thing. And I just really, really took a lot of time to try to work through it. And um, things didn't work out with my ex-wife. We ended up getting divorced in August of last year, which was actually a good thing for both of us. We were just moving in different directions in life, and she was proud of me for all the progress that I made. And that, the sex addiction thing wasn't really the reason why we got divorced. It was just a part of it, and we're just in different chapters in our life, and it kind of was irretrievable. Um, and I still stayed committed to my healing journey. Um, and really, like, the thing with addictions in general is, like, whenever I went to see initially the certified sex addiction therapist, was a CSAT therapy. Um, they gave me a questionnaire to determine if I was a sex addict or not. And I um I asked my therapist, like, how should I answer this question? Like, how should I answer any of these questions? Like it's a good day, like it's, average day. And he said, I want you to answer it like it's your worst day. And I was like, it seems like a little bizarre, right? Um, and he said, no, because really, those are the days when you are going to act out. So whenever you're having a bad day, generally people don't act out whenever they're having good days. Sure, some people may celebrate with an addiction, but most people, it's a coping mechanism for trauma. So if you have a really awful day, what do you go to? Do you reach for your addiction, or do you self-soothe in another way? And so, I had been quote unquote sexually sober for 2 years, and then something bad happened, and I just said screw it, and I watched a bunch of porn and all that, and kind of ruined a lot of trust with my ex-wife, and ruined a lot of trust with myself, because I had spent 2 years like not doing that, and suddenly on a bad day, I resorted to that behavior. And with addictions, people tend to binge rather than like go back to like um, a kind of like, oh, I'll just have like a couple drinks after work, and maybe it's a little too many, but they're still functioning. Like an alcoholic, they will go, they'll drink all the beer. And with porn addiction, it's like I'm not gonna just like watch porn and masturbate. I'm gonna like watch porn for hours, if whatever, however their addiction manifests. Um, Usually whenever somebody relapses, it's with a binge behavior rather than like a consistent kind of low dose behavior. And really it's just kind of like a dragon lurking and waiting for a trigger. So until you can actually address the character defects and the underlying trauma or reason or cause why you would act out or choose an addiction rather than like a healthy coping mechanism, until those things are actually addressed, um, it's a matter of just like white knuckling it, staying sober. And once you can actually address those, in my situation, now I'm only a year in, but I just don't want a lustful encounter. I don't want to watch pornography, and frankly, I don't want to masturbate either. Um, I've learned through my own spiritual practices as being a yoga teacher and a yogi and a meditator that sexual energy is actually creative energy. It's life force energy. It's our chi. That energy is not just to be emitted sexually. It can actually travel up the spine and occupy higher dimensions of ourself, our heart chakra, our throat, how we express ourselves, our third eye, how we see and perceive, and our crown, which is our connection to um, a higher dimensions, cosmic consciousness. So, really like expending that sexual energy just out of the sacral chakra, which is the sexual center located at our pelvis, just to just expel it out that way. It's only one way that we can actually use that energy. And I have found healthy coping mechanisms to be like if I was feeling horny or aroused, to go play music instead, and or to go work out, or to call a friend, or to call my sponsor. And I found that after doing that, that I had no desire to lust, or I had no desire to masturbate or watch porn or anything like that. I found that I actually expended that energy in a healthy way, which was pretty amazing to me because before I really abstained from sexual activity, I didn't think that that was an option. Um, or I just thought maybe, eventually I will have to do that. Like it's going to build up and build up. So, throughout the past 12 months, I was married but separated. Um, and then she came back after like 4 months, and we had sex during that period of time for about a couple months. And then after that, I basically spent 6 months abstinent. I had like two, wet dreams or whatever during that time, but um, wasn't masturbating at all. No fap. And now I'm in a new relationship and we are having sex, but I'm not masturbating. So, I've spent probably 4 months, 4 month chunks of time doing semen retention. And I've spent 12 months total doing no fap. And I am planning to continue to do that practice because of the different health benefits that I've noticed. Um, so, some of the benefits that I've received throughout this process were, well, I'd say the first thing ultimately was developing a better relationship with my higher power. Um, and how I would define my higher power is kind of difficult, because that concept in my mind is ever evolving. So ultimately, I do believe there is a benevolent force of love that's creating everything in the universe, and that everything is love, and or a manifestation of love. And so we all have that signature within us. And I've always been a spiritual seeker throughout my pretty much my whole life, and kind of really did most things on my own. Um, and I believed in God or a higher power, but really, did I really surrender problems that I had powerlessness over to that God or that higher power? No. I wanted to try to deal with them on my own, maybe ignoring them, maybe whitewashing them or spiritual bypassing, what I was doing. And the 12 steps made me get real, because they gave me such a good framework. Um, and so the first step is admitting you're powerless over lust. Um, and the second step is, knowing that, admitting that there's a way out of lust and that your higher power is the only thing that can bring you out. And um, if you're truly an addict and there's truly no other path for you, then and you can't do it yourself, then yes, that would apply. And that applied for me. And now would I say it applies for me now? No. I don't believe that I'm powerless over lust. I actually believe that I have more power than lust. And I have seen that throughout my journey of this past 12 months. But 12 months ago, I did believe that I was powerless, and I would surrender. I would pray to my higher power, God, that, I'm powerless over this lust. Please take this from me. And I would feel lighter. And I realized, oh, I don't have to do this all on my own. I've done everything on my own. Um, and as an addict, people may relate to that because, oftentimes we realize that relationships aren't safe very early on. That's the pattern that, many addicts have. And we learn to cope and self-soothe on our own. And that's usually caused by whatever traumas that we had dealt with. Um, and ultimately, addiction wants us to be isolated, um, because that's where we can, you know, self-soothe with our addiction, whatever it is. And yeah, so where I'm at with things now is I've had many examples and situations this year where things were really difficult for me. And if I were to answer that questionnaire again at the beginning of my sex addiction therapy, it would be a whole different set of responses. I've gone through a lot of challenging things this year, getting divorced, um, dealing with different relationship issues, friendship issues, um, stress, with work and things like that. And never once did I choose porn or lust or anything like that. On top of that, as a newly single man, I had a lot of romantic interest from people, and and also just like sexual interest from people. And the interesting thing was, before I was married, um, I was a little bit of a hound dog, and I would have sexual encounters with women, and looking back, there was a lot of trauma bonding. There was a lot of, I'm going to use your body, you're going to use my body kind of thing. And I had some situations this year where I could see the potential for that, and the old me would have jumped on those situations, especially, just getting out of a divorce and, wanting sexual validation. But the funny thing was, it was like I didn't really know what I was made of until after that divorce and seeing that I didn't want it anymore. And one of my favorite quotes, I think, in one of the 12-step books was the 12 steps didn't guarantee my sobriety, but it ruined acting out forever, which I thought was hilarious. It's like I know too much now. Like I can see that, this woman's interested in me, and she's sexually attractive to me, and the way she's coming at me is like with this like intense like lust and trauma bond kind of feel, and there's nothing in me that wants that. Whereas before I would have jumped right in. Like all I got to do is say, "Hey, let's hang out," and the rest is just boom, go time. I don't want that anymore. And I didn't realize I didn't want that till I was really presented with it again and had ultimate freedom being a newly single person. And over again in different situations, unless there was love involved, I didn't want it. And I didn't have that until I met my current partner, which we both love each other, and we established that we loved each other before any sexual experience. And that was really what I wanted, because at this point in my life, in my development, I realized that sex without love is hollow. It's just two bodies, gyrating together and having a physiological response. Doesn't mean anything to me. And that's my experience. Everybody's different. Doesn't mean anything to me unless there's love. Love breathes life into that experience for me. So, yeah, some other benefits that I've received from doing this no fap journey um, is that I'm a safe person now. I'm not looking at women as lust objects. I'm not seeing vulnerable, weak, you know, women that I can prey upon. I see vulnerable people in the kind of work that I do, and I didn't really want to hold ceremony until I knew I was safe. And now that I know I'm safe, I can see vulnerable people and not in a predatory way. Um, I really didn't want to do that. I just was like, I'm just not going to do this until I actually feel safe. And since then, I have had, vulnerable people coming to me, and I don't see them as any kind of lust object or potential. Even if there is some type of like power imbalance, and maybe they see me as like a uh, attractive person. I keep things very professional and brief and concise and to the point. And that's really the best thing I can be for people. Um, there's nothing more beautiful than, well, I'll start with there's nothing more dangerous than a man who hasn't recognized his own potential for evil. Um, his own potential for being ruled by his instincts. The most powerful man or woman is somebody who has agency and will over their desire to procreate and their desire to survive. And what I mean by that is um, fear of death and lust. We want to survive and we want to fuck. Plain and simple. Um, and if you realize that you are beyond this body, beyond this life, you are a soul, you never die, you are eternal, then you're not afraid of death. Because death for the physical body is just a doorway for the soul. And if you have agency over your sexual impulses and you recognize that they come and go just like thoughts, just like clouds in the sky, then you don't act impulsively. So I could be presented with somebody very attractive and or have a really bad day, and my coping mechanism is not to seek out pornography or to hook up with somebody or be tempted by lust by somebody because I'm the master of that part of my domain. Am I the master of every part of my domain? No, but the more shadow work that I do, the more uncovering of trauma, patterns, instincts, and the subconscious, the more free will I have because I'm no longer ruled by instinct. I'm no longer ruled by impulse, and I'm no longer ruled by reactionary behavior. I can respond to life, not just react. Another benefit is having way more power, way more energy, way more focus. I noticed that I had a lot more um, kind of extra sensory perception, um, psychic ability, um, intuition was very strong. My connection to spirit, my connection to myself, the plants, and other people, much stronger. Because I don't have these junked up thoughts in my mind. Um, Very similarly to I spent most of my life being addicted to cannabis. Had a very unhealthy relationship with cannabis for a period of time, basically half of my life. And a lot of my time and my brain was occupied by how high I was, if I was going to get higher, what I was doing that day. Could I be high for that? Did I need to bring weed or should I smoke beforehand? Can I smoke while I'm there? Am I going to be home afterwards? Am I going to be too high to drive and I'm driving? Do I smell like weed? Do I look high? Am I acting high? Is that a cop behind me? Everybody's a cop behind me. Um, I just had so much paranoia and I abused the plant, and I know that's not everybody's experience with it. So, just for the record, I don't think cannabis is a bad thing. Just like I don't think that masturbation is a bad thing. I think that these are simply tools. They're also, with cannabis, it's a plant being. This is a sentient life force that we have a relationship with, and if we abuse it, it may abuse us back or show us that we are abusing it. So if you use cannabis and you love it and you have a good relationship with it, awesome. I'm happy for you. I'm kind of jealous, but also not because I have the Amanita muscaria mushroom. It's my jam. And that helps me deal with a lot of things that are similar to what people are using cannabis for. Um, Luckily, we live in a cornucopia of plant and fungal medicine in this world, and this day and age. We have more access than ever. So yeah, so I had a lot more focus on just being present with somebody, not treating them as a lust object, not wondering if they were interested in me. I just kind of was like, I'm really gonna like focus on friendships and business relationships. And maybe if there's love involved, like, consider that. Or if there's romantic interest, consider that. But like, I'm not going to hook up. I'm not going to do one night stands. There's got to be love. Maybe I fall in love with somebody and it feels right, and we make love and it's like brief. But that never happened, which is fine. And thankfully I'm in a committed monogamous relationship now, which is amazing. We love each other. Um, yeah, and energy levels were through the roof. I went on a Mushroom Festival tour. I was, driving from Pennsylvania to New York and Pennsylvania to Georgia and Kentucky and back, and doing speeches and running a vendor booth and having employees and coordinating times and schedules and paying people, and all the while running an online business and paying somebody to watch my dogs. Um, I had so much energy throughout this whole experience. And I think a lot of it I did attribute to No Fap. Um, Now, could I do that while I'm having sex with somebody? Probably. Um, I think that there's a different energy exchange happening whenever you make love with somebody. It's reciprocal. For me, with like masturbation, it feels like it's just going out, it's just expelling. So, and some people would argue against that, but that's been my experience. Um, Another thing was that I have better sex now. I'm not thinking about other people. I'm not thinking about anything, really. I'm just being present with my partner. Um, as many people may know, excessive masturbation can cause desensitization. Watching pornography can um, totally fuck up our dopamine system. I mean, pornography is like so bad for our brain. It like there's even doctors who will promote pornography as a way to like connect with your partner, like watch porn together. Um, I think that's absolutely ridiculous. Um, I think that I mean, a video about like sex positions and stuff like that, that may be one thing, but like just straight up watching porn together, like I don't get it. I feel like that's just I feel like that's sad. And I feel like if you need to do that for your relationship, that there's something else going on that needs to be addressed. That's just my opinion. You may disagree, but if you're this far, maybe you don't disagree with that. Um, yeah, so it puts unrealistic expectations on your sexual partners to watch pornography, to watch a theatrical performance between um, actors, um, you know, um, with the way they look and what they're doing. It's not realistic. Um, so yeah, better sex, actually less premature ejaculation, because I'm just not, I don't know. Uh yeah, everything's better. Like everything is better. Also less stress too. Um I deal with stress in healthier ways. Um like I said, I work out, or I play music, or I call a friend. I'm connecting. I'm not isolating. Whenever I watch porn and masturbate, I feel shame and I feel isolation. I want to isolate myself. I don't want to talk to people. I feel icky. Um, my energy is zapped. I don't want to express myself. Um, but now, um, I don't have as much stress because I'm dealing with that stress in healthier ways. And I've found that it improves my life in general. I've found healthy coping mechanisms that are just beneficial for me in general. If you are struggling with sex addiction, um, you can go to sa.org, I believe, or like type in Sexaholics Anonymous or Sex Addicts Anonymous, um, and reach out. They are very helpful, and you can find Zoom meetings online, or go to in-person meetings in your area. Um, just remember that connection is the opposite of addiction, and shame and denial are uh, two very big things that keep addiction going. Um, so you need to admit it to yourself and to God, and um, if you do want to change, and if you do have a problem, if you do recognize you have a problem, you do need to admit it to yourself, and you need to seek help. But just know that it is possible. And any women that are watching, just know that like I've been in these 12-step groups, and there are a lot of guys who are really stepping up. There's a lot of men that are really stepping up. Um, so don't lose hope in men. Um, please. There are a lot of good ones out there. Um, we suffer in silence. And that's why I'm doing this video. Part of me is like, holy shit, this is crazy. I can't believe I'm doing this, but I really am doing this. Because I got this fortune cookie last year, and it was like, would I bring forth what's inside of me? What's inside of me will save me. And I've found that being super vulnerable and sharing has been really, really beneficial for myself and my own process in expressing my voice, and it's also been beneficial for others in hearing my story and knowing that they are not alone. So yeah, you can think of me whatever you want, but I know that I'm a child of love, and I know that I am healed. I'm not an addict. Um, I don't want lust. And I know that it really all started with me actually surrendering to my higher power, admitting I had a problem, and working through those steps. Now, I at some point this year, I just, my sponsor would say like, just keep going to the meetings until it doesn't make sense anymore. And it started to not make sense anymore. I realized like I really don't think I'm a sex addict anymore. And even after going not going to meetings, like being tempted and just realizing that like I didn't want it. I didn't want that lifestyle anymore. Um and I mean, there's, like I will see an attractive person and like maybe get aroused or maybe take a second look. And I'm like, oh yeah, I'm doing the thing again. But it's really not an issue um in my life anymore. It doesn't rule me. I have power over it. I may not have power over my initial reaction, but how I respond after that, um, that's within my control. Um, so with that being said, yeah, if you do have an addiction or you have a partner that has an addiction like this, um, they can reach out. I can respond if I can. I will. I'm pretty busy, but ultimately, I think that um, men should go through a period of um, no fap, which means not masturbating, even if it's just for like 90 days. you would be amazed at how you feel after 90 days. Um, Maybe even 4 months, 6 months. I'm just going to keep going. I mean, whether I have a partner or not, um, I know that I can manage my own sexual creative energy in a way that doesn't have to be released in my you know what. um, I can move that energy up my spine. It's my Kundalini energy, can move up my spine and occupy higher faculties of myself. And that feels really good. Once I really was able to establish a new pattern for how I'm coping, that is a very powerful experience. I mean, there are Taoist sexual masters that say, like, you know, if you're um 30 years old, you shouldn't ejaculate more than once a week, or, if you're uh 20, like there's different ages and different real reasons, but um tell you what, man, you get a lot of energy. It's like, and you better learn how to manage that energy. That was another thing too. Like, okay, now I'm not like spilling out my energy. What do I do with it? Well, you got to create things. You got to, if it, and that may just be like I got to run around my block a couple times to expend this energy out. But I am a high productivity, high achiever with my business and everything. So this really just aided in me. I was like, well, holy shit, I have all this energy to like devote to like working and developing new products and answering emails and like all these, you know, things that I have to do. I have way more energy for them and I can do more of them, and my output has increased. And so that was pretty incredible. So, do I think that I will always practice this? Maybe not. But right now it feels really good and it feels very right. For me, because I was able to get a part of me back. I was able to retrieve a part of me that was missing, which was control over my sexual desire. And because of that, I have more agency. I'm a safer person. I have more power, energy, and focus. I have better sex, and I have less stress in my life, and I don't live with shame. And I'm also not degrading women. Let's not forget that fact. I mean, yes, that goes along with the safety aspect. I'm not degrading women. I'm not preying after women. I'm not objectifying women. And um, ultimately, I think that whenever a man can be in relationship with a woman and not treating her as a prey object, the woman can sense whenever she is being preyed upon. And I think that a woman, to actually be able to fully express her divine feminine, has to be in a safe place. So a man has to provide a safe container for that woman to fully unfurl her flower, right? Herself. Women have this natural, deep body, earth connection to spirituality because of the nature of their expression in this manifestation. They're connected with the moon, with the earth, with the cycles of nature and life. They give birth. They create human beings in their creative center. And if they're always living in survival mode, thinking that they're being preyed upon, then they're not actually going to really fully invoke their their potent gift that they have. And if a man isn't checking his ego and checking his sexual impulses, then he's not fully expressing his divine masculine, of being able to provide a safe container for the feminine to express herself. He's not able to protect. So in one way or another, I feel like sexual mastery is something that especially young men should try to work on. Um, there are books like or authors Montauk Chia, some other ones I don't know about. But it gets easier as you get older. If you would have asked me to do this in my early 20s, I would have been like, hell no. My sex drive was insane. And it's still really healthy, but I'm a wiser man. I'm not just my brain wasn't fully formed. I think it's like age 24 is whenever a man's brain stops developing. So I just was, you know, just a horny young guy. And now I feel safer to be around, and um I know that I can provide that safe container for my partner to express herself. And other women too, in a platonic way. Um I can be a safe person. If somebody's at an event and they're having a problem with somebody, I can be that safe person that they come to. And I'm glad because whenever I realized that I was powerless over my lust, before I was able to fully get a handle on it, one of the scariest parts was like, oh man, I'm like not that safe of a person if I am feeling horny and I want to, you know, take advantage of somebody in a vulnerable state. That's not a safe person. And now I can see that I don't want any part of that. I just want to actually help that person. And that's a really beautiful thing. Um, there's so many more opportunities for me to help people um, because I don't have this issue anymore. So just want to say thank you for listening. Um, and yeah, check out sa.org or Sex Addicts Anonymous. I don't know what it is, saa.org, but anyway, yeah, and you can think however you want. If you want to judge me, think I'm weirdo, whatever. I don't really care because I know my truth. But I just want to thank you for listening this whole way through. It's kind of like a different kind of podcast than I'm used to doing. But I felt like I just wanted to share my personal journey, and I know that some people will benefit from it. So, all right, I'm out. Peace. Thanks for enjoying another episode of the Gab Lab. If you made it this far, please like and subscribe, share it with your friends, leave us a 5-star review. It all helps the algorithm. If you want to follow us on Instagram, it's gablab.show. And there are other links in the show notes. Please follow the guest, and we will see you in the next episode.
Gab Lab.